We needed one area to work with close at home because nobody knew how to do this. This was not in the books, and I don't think it is in the books today. But you're writing that book, I hope. But how do you do that? How do you get people to the point where they do things that you like, not necessarily because they want to join you, but because it's in their own interest? How do you do that? So we set, of those 7 big targets we had over the 10-year period, we set one target close to home so that we could experiment in our backyard. So we said, that was one of the 7 concrete targets. We need 200,000 hectares extra nature in this country. For 2 reasons. One was the one that I just mentioned. If we apply those 10% to our country, this is what we're short. And the second one was, how can you raise kids in a country where nature is something that you can only see and experience on television or if you go abroad? There must be areas close to home where kids can roam and light a fire or do mischief or whatever, but where they can feel the force of nature, also in this small country. So that was launched, that idea was launched in September '91, and I clearly remember the laughter during the press conference of all the journalists and the conservation people that were there, because this was ridiculous. This was, nature was something weak that you need to nurture and to be very careful with, and if you didn't, the idea that you could get more of it was so counterintuitive. Nature was only becoming less, so how could you demand more? That was ridiculous. So we said, let's, and we didn't, nobody knew how to do it, and we didn't. And so we said we should try this in an area where there's a lot of change anyway, so you automatically end up in a wetland situation where change is rife rather than, say, a dry forest. And we chose an area along the River Rhine where there's Rotterdam here, and here's the Ruhr area in Germany, and then there's I'll draw it here. There's a dike on this side that keeps the water in during the winter when the water is higher. It's also on that side. And the area here is agricultural land, and it's bad because it gets flooded with dirty water. The farmer doesn't know what to do, has little future. His son or daughter may or may not take over the farm, but there's no future in it, so he's stuck. The diking authorities are stuck as well because they need to strengthen the dike, which means broadening the dike, and if they broaden it on that side, they get into conflict with people that have these houses here, and they date back to 1723 or whatever, and they're all united in a little society, and they will fight you up to the highest court of the country. So that takes years of legal battle and lots of costs to strengthen the dike on that is broadening the dike on that side. And at the same time, broadening it on this side either is difficult because there's a little piece of wetland there, 0.2 hectares or whatever, and of course there's a little conservation organization that deems this the most interesting area in the world, and they will also fight you to the highest court, and again, lots of costs, etc. So diking authorities stuck. These people are worried, these people are worried, and there you are. None of these people is stupid. These are well-educated, well-to-do people that have their best interest and that fight for their own logical self-interest, right? There's no stupidity involved, but they're all locked into this battle. So we then said, what if the clay people, the brick builders, the brick makers, what if they could come in and harvest the clay in this area? Now the brick people are usually the bad guys because they dig out the most profitable areas of clay and then leave sort of a carcass of landscape, which is not very pleasant for others to look at. So they're not very welcome, and usually they're banned by all sorts of zoning laws. What if they were allowed in? And we proposed that to the farmer in a specific area. Suddenly the farmer has a choice. He can sell or not sell. And if he sells, he can continue a farm somewhere else or start something else completely. Suddenly he has choices. Farmer likes it. The clay people like it because they have access to this resource. The diking people like it because they get a cheap resource, the top layer of clay here, from nearby, which saves them costs, and they can strengthen the dike on this site, which makes the people living in that house very happy because they can stay there, and would actually make those people happy as well, because the condition to the clay authorities is that they can dig the clay, but they need to turn over the land once it's completely delved. When all the clay has been stripped out of it, then they need to return the area to the people that have that. So instead of the 0.2 hectares, they now have this whole area. This is something we actually tried on a very small scale near the German border, on the German border actually, in an area where it was not completely clear whether this was Holland or Germany. And that's, but it's you had to go through Germany to get there. And and that's no coincidence. You know, stuff like this needs to happen as far away from the center as possible, where the center has no idea and no control, and you know, by the time it works or doesn't work, then at least they haven't interfered. Important. Small area, and this was our pilot. This pilot is one element. This was about 15% of the effort. 5% of the effort actually preceded that, and that was creating a vision. The target in our case was how to get 200,000 hectares in the next 10 years extra nature in the Netherlands. But that doesn't motivate much people. And not many people get really worked up by that idea. Some conservation people do, but that doesn't actually move people. It might move you, but not necessarily too many others. So we crafted a vision for the riverscape, and we basically said, wouldn't it be nice if one could walk from Rotterdam to the German border along this typical Dutch landscape that we know from paintings in the Golden Age, and wouldn't it be nice if one could see and experience that countryside again, that area? If one, you know, because at that time you couldn't go anywhere. It was agricultural land. There was barbed wire everywhere, and if you were seen there, you were chased out by the farmer, and rightfully so, right? Wouldn't it be nice if? And we then created images for that idea, you know, maps with how that area would look once it was completely taken back by nature. Pictures, manipulated photos, and paintings of how that would be. There were words. It was made alive. There was a symposium on it where we tried to make people dream with us, if that wouldn't be something really worthwhile. And so that was about 5% of the vision, but of the effort, but a very important part of it. It also involved, you know, not only creating maps and images, but it literally meant creating words. Those from the Netherlands know the word natuurontwikkeling, nature development, or nieuwe natuur, new nature. Those were new words that didn't exist, and that got people really worked up. There were fights over those words in the newspapers. This was ridiculous. This was Coca-Cola nature. This was you couldn't develop nature. There was, you know, it was. But that was good. You need that. But words were absolutely crucial to get the thing going and to get people to realize that this was not the same, not business as usual. 80% of the effort was something that I still don't have a word for, and that is bringing people into that field of tension between, wouldn't it be nice if, on the one hand, this document, this dream, and the concrete situation here. We're trying something here. What do you think? What do you think? This is not the answer, but what do you think? We're curious. And bringing everybody there literally meant bringing everybody there. So we brought the Queen there, every minister we could get hold of, every journalist we could get hold of. There were 200 elementary schools in the area that all had a 2-week program in their regular curriculum, which was illustrated by what was happening here. They went there, and of course they then started talking at home about it. But everybody living in the area was invited to come, and many people came. And then the interesting thing happened. But again, this was 80% of the effort, actually bringing people there and not telling them this is the answer, but what do you think? And this created a buzz. There was something strange, something curious happening there along the German border. And if I may, many people brought those people there, but I did it myself a few times. And it was a game to actually not disclose what we were going to see there until you got there, which meant a 3-hour travel from The Hague or whatever, and then parking the car. So now we're here. Where is it? I said, no, wait a moment. And we had to go up the dike, which was another 10-minute walk, and then so now we're here. This is where the Bataafs entered the country. This is where the delta of the Netherlands starts. This is this secret place, and now we're entering the secret. And you know, making this a mythical thing was very important. Anyway. What then happened was that within 2 years, we were called by all sorts of parties along the river, from the Ruhr to Rotterdam, saying, we're doing something here, would you care to take a look? Would you like to come over in 2 or 3 weeks from now and see what we're doing? We're curious to see what you think of it. And that was really amazing. That was really amazing, because what happened was that all along the river, different parties had thought up their own solutions, not to create nature, but to solve those logical battles that they were locked into locally as well. And these were, you know, priests and a farmer and a local recreation area and a shop owner and a camping or whatever. It would have been all sorts of parties, but the story was the same all over. All of them said, at one point during that day when we were there, you know, we were locked into this battle. We were fighting each other tooth and nail, and suddenly we realized we could actually come up with something that was better for ourselves. None of those people did this to create nature. All of them did it because it was good for themselves. This was all enlightened self-interest. It meant for the farmer that he had options. It meant for the camping owner that he had more people coming there. It meant for the priest that, you know, people all did it because it was good for themselves. And they did it because, and this was said to me, I don't know how many times in different words, but the story was always the same. You know what? I went there this Sunday with my daughter and she loved it. They were proud. They were actually proud that they had made the area better.